Hello and welcome back to Cinephiles, the show that started based around one common question. You can stream John Cena, but should you? Today, as always, I, Henry T. Casey, am joined by the Vigilante to my Peacemaker. That's right, Mike Andronico is here. And I was never going to make that kind of comparison until we learned Vigilante's Google search history. And we're going to get to that later. So, Mike, how are you? What is your favorite color? Is it teal?
Wow, well now I'm just kind of reeling from that comparison. I have a lot of thoughts. I'll take it to some degrees. We definitely have the Taylor Swift thing in common, as we'll get into. Some other things not so much. I'm not sure if I definitely haven't killed anyone, so there's that.
But you also think everything
but
is Italian, because he thinks Vigilante is Italian, so.
Yeah, which is true. Vigilante, very very popular Italian word. So he's factually correct there.
So I think this is the second to last episode of the season, or is it or how many?
I believe this is episode 6.
Yeah, it's
right?
episode 6.
I think we've got 2 more.
It could be.
It feels like a second to last episode. I'll tell you that.
There are 8.
So there are 2 more. Yeah.
Supposedly the reported episode titles are "Stop Dragging My Heart Around" and "It's Cow or Never." So that
I love it.
I'm interested in that. I'm interested in a lot more though. So let's dive right in. How are you feeling as we get to this point in Peacemaker?
Yeah, I think I know I said this last week, but it's also true this week. I think episode 6 was the best episode yet. I am extremely excited for these final 2 episodes. I think this one did an incredible job giving us a perfect mix of comedy and hyper-violence and really clearly setting the stakes, setting up our 2 main factions of villains that I'm really excited to see Peacemaker and the crew take on. I do have some quick fun facts to go through. Nothing new on Wikipedia. We have to be creative when you're covering a TV show. The Wikipedia is pretty static, but there is a bit of trivia I want to talk about for this episode. It's been all over the internet by this point, but yes, that was actually John Cena playing the piano at the end. Doing this really somber version of Motley Crue's Home Sweet Home, which you can stream on Spotify. And I actually didn't know this until today. Very bad Peacemaker fan, but there's an entire playlist on Spotify with the official soundtrack, all the songs you've heard in the show. So I'll definitely link that in the show notes. But yeah, that was actually John Cena. James Gunn was sharing a lot of cool facts. He actually said when they were shooting the Suicide Squad, he had a really rough time where his dog was passing away, so he's waiting to fly home, and John just started playing the Pixies' "Where Is My Mind" on the piano while they were waiting in the hotel lobby, and that just really crushed him. Another cool piece of information is that this piano version of Home Sweet Home was arranged by John Murphy, who is the composer of the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So some cool fun facts, and that's all worth mentioning because this episode, Mirn After Reading, great title, is the directorial return of James Gunn, and I think it really shows in every moment. As we just talked about, there are several great musical sequences in this episode, and again, it's just that classic James Gunn perfect balance of the comedic stuff, the emotional stuff, the hilariously over-the-top violent superhero action. So yeah, love this episode. Probably my favorite yet. Has me crazy excited to see how they're going to wrap the whole thing up in 7 and 8.
Speaking of music, I just turned off the portrait effect on my stream because I wanted to point. I always forget how this goes because of mirroring. I just wanted to point out this little piece of art over here, the drawing of John Cho in the Cowboy Bebop show by the esteemed artist Lauren Moran. I point that out because Lauren has decided to try to get the gig, and she tweeted at James Gunn and I think at Mondo to do the art for the record release that they would hopefully do for Peacemaker. Imagine like a vinyl release. I know you haven't become Mike hasn't been destroyed by vinyl record fandom yet. It's inevitable. I
just want to show the viewers at home the excellent art.
Yep.
She did in collaboration with Chris at Tiger Driver. But if anyone, James Gunn, I know you're watching. So hire Lauren Moran. She is the absolute best fit. If you're doing a soundtrack or anything Peacemaker related, she needs to be doing the artwork.
And James Gunn loves music for these soundtracks so much that he's got a vinyl release is. If this is a show that has a podcast, why can't it have a vinyl release? Come on. And not just our podcast. Doesn't a fit? HBO
Mm-hmm.
makes podcasts for everything these days. But welcome, Magan. It is at right here. Yeah, no, there's another great song later that I looked up. Thanks to a little helpful piece of a little helpful piece of technology, because there, if nothing, Peacemaker is a analysis and dissection of what technology is doing to everybody's brain these days. John, Peacemaker gets to that later. But let's start where we always start, at the start of the episode. Because we left off with Mirn going all full butterfly. The Bebop piece is right behind me. If you look right there, hold on a second. I think I can pull it down. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, so I'll take it from here, but we get. Oh yeah, we'll let Henry. Very beautiful piece of art. But yeah, so
Mirn
yes.
is gone full butterfly, or we think, and he's like freaking out at Latoya. Sorry, Adebayo. Trying to remember her first name. Her partner calls her Lee later in the episode. I remember that. But Mirn freaks out at Adebayo, and she tries to pull a gun on him. He kicks it away. Then he says, "Stop." And were you expecting him to say words?
No, yeah, this intro sequence was such a great double twist. Because yeah, as like you said, we pick off from the cliffhanger of episode 5. We see what appears to be Mirn attacking Adebayo, and then he says stop, and then shortly after that, we see Hardcore show up. So you think Hardcore would help Adebayo out, but no, it appears that they were working together in some sort of cahoots. Hardcore says she knows, so clearly she's known that Mirn's a butterfly. But things don't go as expected, because there's yet another twist. Yes, Mirn is a butterfly, but he's not the bad kind of butterfly. And then he kind of goes on to give us his whole spiel.
Did I guess this last week or the week before? I feel like I said
You did.
I was like, are there
something
warring
to
butterfly
that.
factions? Like
Yeah.
but Hardcore first says, because Mirn explains that she found out through the X-ray mask, and Hardcore's like, he's not gonna like that. He doesn't like when his stuff is touched. And I'm like, they're just dismissing all of Adebayo's fears, and it's kind
Yes.
of hilarious in this sort of menacing, rainy outdoor moment. But Hardcore hands Adebayo the gun, and we have a conversation about butterflies. And the one inside of Mirn was the one dissenting butterfly, the good-natured butterfly who didn't want to take over Earth, because that's right, Peacemaker is an alien invasion story, just like Suicide Squad, I guess.
Yep. And yeah, Mirn apparently, he did obviously have to take over a human body, and he said he took over pretty much the worst person he could find, and he has to deal with that person's thoughts and remorse, and all that. So he's carrying some serious stuff. But yeah, so there we go. Mirn, yes, is a butterfly, but still very much on Team Argus and is our good guy for this show.
And we cut to the intro music after we learn that there's a cow. And Hardcore says, "You forgot to tell her about the cow." And then that's where we hear the lyrics that we like to hear every week. Do you really want to taste it? And the combination of a cow and
the answer is always yes.
yeah, the answer is always yes. It's just the combination of like a cow and that. It's funny, especially if you just saw Jackass Forever like we did. But we cut to Peacemaker in a elementary school, because his good friend, the custodian from the hospital, needed a favor. Because all the other kids have parents or relatives with really cool jobs, and that guy wanted something that cool for his daughter. But Peacemaker reveals he thinks that once Wonder Woman was IFing him from across the room, which that makes the custodian pretty angry. And Peacemaker's like, I said effing. And like we continue to have like Peacemaker's like stunted brain of what he believes is an acceptable thing.
Yeah, so this is one of those scenes I think we're gonna be talking about long after the show wraps up. It's up there with the Economos and Peacemaker scene of just I was laughing out loud the entire time. I was struggling to take notes because every single line was so quotable, but there were so many great moments. There was a great callback. One kid asked if he had a cadre of supervillains. Throwback,
A coterie of
a,
supervillain.
a coterie of
And
supervillains.
before he can finish the
He
sentence,
calls,
he interrupts it.
yeah, yeah. Yep. He doesn't even let him get that question off. He he's calling the kids by really great names. He calls one kid the Rubik's Cube world champion, one kid like spaghetti arm, stuff like that. It briefly gets serious because one kid asks, "Do you have an origin story?" And we get yet a little bit more flashback of Peacemaker and his older brother dying, and Augie being really really resentful for that. So they peeled back a little bit more of that story, but still not giving us the full thing.
And Augie says that you killed your brother to Peacemaker. That was
Yeah.
the key thing I took away from that scene was you didn't get Peacemaker being responsible for it, but you got him getting the blame for it, which is an
Yes.
interesting what do we learn about who actually killed the kid later.
Mm-hmm.
But my theory is that Augie actually kills him, but Peacemaker Chris is the one who beat him in battle, and therefore that meant the kid lost Augie's respect. Just putting it out there because I like to be right about shit because I'm petty. But then, but Peacemaker is doing a riffing gimmick where he's basically giving each of the kids nicknames. And it kind of reminded me of that movie Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where they're at the bar making up like celebrity lookalike names for everybody. Because Peacemaker at one point calls one girl gender swapped Alfred E. Newman, which I don't think those kids are going to know what the hell an Alfred E. Newman is, but that's besides the point. But yeah, we get this little flashback, and we learn that Peacemaker might have a daughter. But
yes, and that brings us right. Yeah, that's a nice way to bring us back to make things a little lighthearted again after that really intense flashback. There's, I think the last girl is just like, yeah, do you know a Miss So and So? Is like, because you might be my real dad. But
yeah, Becky Coolidge may have had a one-nighter with Peacemaker forever ago.
Yep. So, but speaking of Augie, we flash back to the police station. Augie is now free because the investigation revealed that he was not the murderer that they've been hunting down since the beginning of the show. He has another racist exchange with Detective Song, and she has a great clap back to him. I don't know if you have the quote, Henry, but it was
he says something
one.
Racist, and she says, "Oh no, that you mistranslated. That means I have stupid hair." It's basically
she loves to shit on his hair. It's a great bit,
and his hair is a great bit, so it works. But yeah, the race war, the one-on-one race war continues, and then Peacemaker. I wrote the wrong name down. The White Dragon gets into a car with one of his white power minions, and when the guy asks what he wants, he says, "I want Dome and to murder my son." Basically.
Yes. So
in that order.
White Dragon's motivations are clear. Obviously, this is not going to end well for Peacemaker, and it's far from the only person that's going to be after him. But yeah, I think we then cut to another very very important scene where we've got Peacemaker and Vigilante together in Peacemaker's trailer. Some great exchanges. Vigilante is questioning why he kept Goth, the butterfly version of Goth. Peacemaker says, sometimes I think I'm insecure in my masculinity, so I make up for it by having a dangerous pet. And
Eagly's origin story confirmed.
Yep. And but it turns out Goth is more than a dangerous pet. Goth is actually starting to communicate with our humans because we see him start to make a peace sign. So they're trying to now talk to Goth in the jar and get some answers. And it's a very, very funny exchange. And feel free to call out some details, Henry, but I love that they go back and forth and Vigilante calls him out for he calls Peacemaker out for surrounding himself with things that don't talk back. Because it's again back to his insecurity. And then at one point Peacemaker just lets out a scream that is just the funniest. The timing of it was just the most hilarious and perfect thing.
It happened right after Vigilante accuses him of being angry. And it's like seen as like, no shit, Sherlock. It's sort of like, oh, are you having trouble in these difficult times, kind of moment. But it's all based around Peacemaker trying to communicate with something that can't talk to him. So he creates a yes, no, one tap, two tap system on the glass. And then Vigilante decides to ask questions that do not have yes, no answers. And Peacemaker says there are only two less. And Vigilante says, that's too many rules. Peacemaker goes, there are only two rules. One, yes or no questions. Two, not be a dumbass. And then Vigilante goes, how am I supposed to remember number two?
It's hard. It's very hard for Vigilante to not be a dumbass.
It's a difficult thing for a lot of people. Vigilante is not alone. I'll let him know.
We've all had those moments.
It's not unique. But then Vigilante, we then learn, because the Argus gang is trying to get in touch with them to warn them that the cops are coming, because they found the journal that Adebayo planted, I think. No, they haven't done that yet. But they're coming for Peacemaker because Augie's out of jail. And then Peacemaker doesn't pick it because they're too busy arguing. And so Economos, I believe, says, have you tried calling Vigilante? Which is when we learn that Vigilante's theme song, another song that should be on the vinyl soundtrack, is Barbie Girl. And that is completely glossed over. Vigilante answers the phone, tries to deny that he's Vigilante. That sounds like an Italian name.
Yep.
And we get the escape, but not before the cops do find the diary, which has an NWO reference in it. So that is the second time Cena has been surrounded by NWO, the letters, ever since the Firefly Funhouse. And what did you think of this escape and like everything surrounding them trying to be hidden?
It was fantastic. It starts off very tense. The police are asking Peacemaker Vigilante to come out. They manage to sneak out of the RV at the very last possible moment. Vigilante basically, I think, tapes Goth to his side, and he even says like, I'm doing this so I could, free my hands up and be more aerodynamic. So they escape in the nick of time. They're hiding in a tree. The police break through. They're doing their search. Vigilante's just ready to start murdering because they're quiet. He's ready to kind of throw one of his daggers, and there's just one scene where Peacemaker mouths, "She's a cop," but he says it silently, and Vigilante says, "She's a cock." It's just one of those just subtle moments of Vigilante just being the stupidest person ever, and it being fantastic. But again, Vigilante being not the smartest person out there, as he's trying to like mime something, he falls out of the tree, and then kind of all chaos ensues.
The problem of Vigilante taping Goth Butterfly onto his side is that the butterfly breaks out immediately, and Vigilante, for some reason before this happened, says he thought that they were going to get wasted, and I believe that's why he falls out of the tree, because he's pantomiming getting shit-faced.
Peacemaker asked where his car is. He was like, I took an Uber. Like, I thought we were just gonna hang out and drink all day. And then when he's miming that's when everything kind of goes to hell. Yeah,
and that's why the butterfly jumps out, and the butterfly immediately like lodges itself into Detective Song's mouth, and it looks very much It looks very graphic in how it happens, and
there's a lot of this is probably the most graphic and violent episode. There is a lot of body horror, which is something that James Gunn has a lot of expertise in, if you've seen Slither. So yes, a very visceral scene of Goth, what appears to be murdering Song, but as we see, actually is kind of taking over Song and as its new host. And I have to say, I love the entire chase scene that happens here. It's extremely violent, but also just very fun to watch. You get to see Eagly viciously murdering a bunch of cops, and Vigilante just haphazardly also killing a bunch of cops. Neither of them have much remorse. They don't have kind of the conflicted heart that Peacemaker does. So very fun, very violent chase scene, and it wraps up with the quote-unquote police chief, who I believe his name is Locke, who's actually working with Argus. He basically gives them a way out. He lets them know if there's a car that's ready to pick them up, or that's ready for them to take and get away. But we also see Detective Song start to wake up. She is now a butterfly, and things are not going to be very good as a result.
She barely does a good job of hiding the fact that she's a butterfly. And then Locke winds up killing shooting one cop in the head and shooting another one, and then Peacemaker sees this and has like
Yes.
a real one of the first, I don't know, probably the second or third really big moments of crisis watching it happen. And this is where you start to learn more about it's, which is weird because like he's Peacemaker. We saw him killing everything he could in the
Yep.
Suicide Squad. But now the difference is that like these cops weren't bad guys. Like whenever he's been sent on a mission, he's been able to reconcile murder with the fact that he's believing what he's told. Like
Mm-hmm.
the through line of Peacemaker in the comedy and violence when it comes to anything he reads on Google or Facebook and whatever like the bosses tell him is that he will believe it because why would somebody lie to him? But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, as we're about to see, his trust is breaking down, and that is what is helping rewire Peacemaker's brain. But he feels bad for his complicitness, and then him and Vigilante get into this sort of Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction like car. It's a black
Uh,
like it's a really cool car. Like the kind of thing that like the dirtbag boyfriend of the girl you liked in high school would be driving. I don't know, but then Peacemaker wants to call Hardcore because if anybody
yes.
he trusts, it's Hardcore,
It's
and he pulls
yep.
out a blue iPhone 10R, which is I think one of my favorite props of the entire series. I thought it was a 5C at first, but it's too big. Look at his hands.
Good call out.
And but then Vigilante breaks it because he's like, they're gonna track us. And Peacemaker goes, it's a secure line. What the hell? And then he says,
And
I had important photos of Eagly in there.
yeah, it says I have super cute pictures of Eagly on there. They're irreplaceable. Then there's this great back and forth of Peacemaker being so technologically inept. And Vigilante's like, "What about the cloud?" And he just Peacemaker is screaming like, "I don't know what the cloud is. It happened when I was in prison. Everyone talks about this effing cloud." Um, so we have to now use Vigilante's phone, and the first thing that you see in Vigilante's phone is a search a search history for Taylor Swift's sexy butt. And why did Vigilante make that search, Henry?
He wanted to see Taylor Swift's sexy butt.
Listen, respect. I get it. He's a big fan.
He's waiting
Meanwhile,
for all the Taylor's versions to come out.
yep.
But yeah, Locke is now trying to really take control of the situation on Mirn's behalf. It seems like we had discussed what if Locke is a butterfly or not last episode. At this
Mhm.
point, it seems like he probably isn't.
Yeah.
But he is really
Definitely
dumb.
not.
He's
As of right now.
but no, but
not.
he's also really dumb, which is the other part of what makes you think he could be a butterfly, because he basically tries to tell Song and the other detective that the Hamburglar was responsible for it.
I love, yeah, the description as it just keeps escalating. He's like, had a striped suit, red tie, top hat. He ran away just going rubble rubble. And it was just so good. Great performance by the actor playing Locke. But yeah, then you're starting to I forget his name offhand, but things are starting to unravel. Song's partner is realizing that something's up with Song because she is not talking to him like she normally does. She calls him human at one point. So yeah, things are falling apart there. And now we're back at HQ, just talking about what went on. There's some great one-liners, specifically about Song, where someone refers to her as an Oriental woman.
Vigilante
calls
does.
out,
Of course, it's Vigilante.
Peacemaker says you're not supposed to say that anymore, and it's
Vigilante asks why. Peacemaker says, I don't know. But they're just and then Hardcore explains it, and it's a very nice like moment of like, okay, we're learning all.
Also, Hardcore calls Peacemaker an asshat at one point, and he goes, "Maybe I find that derogatory," which is hilarious. Speaking of trivia, as I was doing some digging, someone actually unearthed a James Gunn tweet. Don't worry, not that kind. Someone unearthed a James Gunn tweet from early 2020 where he put out a Twitter poll. He's like, "I'm writing a show, and I need to know, is it asshat one word or is it hyphenated?" So someone dug that up, sent that to James Gunn this week. It was like, were you writing this scene when you put that tweet out? And lo and behold, he was. So shout outs to that fan who somehow found the asshat poll from early 2020.
That's
so, yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yes. So shout outs to them. But yeah, so yeah, obviously a classic HQ scene. Things are in crisis, and they're all having a hilarious argument, and it was fun.
And meanwhile, at the police station, Locke is going into his office, tucking in the journal, the fake Vigilante Peacemaker journal, which he stole, away in his desk. But then Goth Song, as I'm calling her, explores the alien database. Explores because Goth. Okay, this is the thing that I think we might have talked about. If no, it's from the start of the episode. Goth is the queen of the butterflies. The butterfly in Goth was the queen. So that again, tech comes into play because Goth Song pulls down the side hatch of her PC, rewires the dang thing, so alien glyphs start appearing on the screen, and it's full. Whatever the alien version of like the Matrix green text is, it's all like blue circular glyphs.
It's very Matrix.
And then Goth Song knows what she needs to do next, but the partner is back in, and more awkwardness ensues.
Yeah, now she starts acknowledge, like she's not even trying to pretend to be Song. She's saying, "Oh wow," she tells the partner like, "Wow, she was very fond of you," and it just has to be this way. Also, there's a great scene of her like relearning how to smile because apparently it's different with everybody. So we see Song, well, as we're calling them, Song Goth, let out this very awkward smile. And then meanwhile at HQ, it seems that they have found the source of the amber that the butterflies are living off of. So that's kind of the new mission. And what we get next is such an awesome sequence, such a great James Gunn moment of kind of the two main antagonist factions assembling. Basically, we see Goth Song assembling their army of butterflies. They're showing up in these miniature UFOs and ravishing the police station. And basically, Song, turns the entire police force into a bunch of mind-controlled butterflies. At the same time, what is happening, Henry?
Well, this is where Locke finally becomes a butterfly, because the butterflies crash the window in front of his office. But also, the white nationalists with Augie Smith assemble his white dragon gear on him, making him look like the worst version of. I realized this while I was watching. Like, I know this armor isn't anything new, but for some reason, the white dragon gear just looks like Freakazoid to me. Not Freakazoid, but the other Freakazoid. Remember there was like Freakazoid's enemy was that color scheme of like orange and white. It was weird. No, I'm thinking of the bad guy from the Incredibles movies, actually. I think. But then all the while, the song "Monster" by the band Reckless Love off of the album Invader, IN uppercase V lowercase Ader, so inside of the wrestler Vader or Darth, is playing, and it's a badass song. I discovered this by using the live text capture from the screen from the subtitles, and it got me to this weird forum for the site heavyharmonies.com. I sent you the link earlier. It's in our the Discord for this episode, but there's this whole, this whole forum. If there's any way to include this lyric in or this link in our stuff, do so, because the whole it's a comment thread, and like it's so Peacemaker. Like the third comment goes, "Oh, surprise, surprise! Metallion Stallion comes in with his usual gender sexual orientation insults." What I don't get is it's like this whole world of glam rock is these comments are from 2016.
Wow.
Is like I was like amazed to find this, and then I did a little. More people had already put up the name and band, but like I'm very happy that I found it that way by searching one particular lyric. But no, it's awesome, and that is another reason why I want that vinyl soundtrack to be released.
Yes,
James Gunn, James Gunn, ask your friend Dave Bautista about this one sentence. Give me what I want, because we need a vinyl soundtrack. That will be what gets Mike to get vinyl, because it's gonna look really cool. If a Peacemaker. Come on.
I would probably buy it, but I cannot stress enough how much I love this scene, because again, it was classic James Gunn, just using 80s hair metal to the ultimate effect, and seeing these two villainous armies assemble. And I thought it was cool because the song playing is Monster. You have these very these literal monsters and the butterflies, this alien species that's trying to take over. And then of course you have the monsters in the form of these racist Nazis that are wearing very KKK like hoods and rallying around the white dragon. So it was cool. It's like, all right, here's our bad guys. Shit's about to go down, and I cannot wait to see Peacemaker and crew take on them. But yeah, just classic James Gunn. It was such a great episode to have him back for, because it was one of those sequences that he does best, I think.
Oh yeah, and it ends with a little bit of niceness to make it not all dreary and dreadful, but before an actual threat on Peacemaker. First, Hardcore puts a dove of peace on a P90. Peacemaker says that's the wrong way. It should be faith, and then he admits that he was making that up because he doesn't want to kill humans anymore. And Hardcore says, "Well, we're about to have to kill a lot of these things." So, and Peacemaker goes, "No, wait, don't worry. I'm okay with killing aliens." But when does he learn about Mirn being a good alien? So that's going to be a funny.
I do, right. And I do just want to stop because that line really stopped me in my tracks. Just him saying, "I don't want to kill people anymore," because we know he's, the show has been teasing that trajectory where he's become more sympathetic and more remorseful. But just to think of where we first met him in the Suicide Squad, where he seemed completely cold-blooded, like if it was for the mission, he's fine with killing anybody. And for him to say the words, "I don't want to kill people anymore," was kind of his face turn kind of completing in a way, or at least coming very close to that. And I do want to shout out, I just love the dynamic between Peacemaker and Hardcore. It's a very subtle take on like the romance subplot. They obviously are into each other to a degree, but we're not beat. They're both very guarded about it, and we're not beat over the head with it. I love
Cena's
to see.
not guarded about it at all. Cena's not even.
Yes, you're right. He's not hiding. Hardcore's the guarded one. She's the badass, tough, sarcastic one. Cena's very upfront with how into her he is. But I do really love their relationship. It's clear that they care about each other, but it's played very with a lot of subtlety, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and she says maybe 15% of you isn't a piece of shit. Or, well, no, she says 85% of you is a piece of shit. But then she even tells him her first name, which is Amelia, which I think we, the audience, knew, but it's nice to have that sort of like Peacemaker learns kind of thing. And then he plays the piano. As we said, Home Sweet Home. Before Vigilante walks into the room, Mike, and what does Vigilante tell him? I thought you said you didn't have a diary.
Yep.
And then Butterfly Locke is on the news declaring that, we found a journal that has Peacemaker as a crazy conspiracy theorist who believes in aliens and the deep state, and he's responsible for killing all these cops and the stripper that we met in the first episode. And now Peacemaker, dead or alive, basically, is the goal of every cop in the country.
Yes, and he is public enemy number one.
Exactly the words in my notes. And that is how we close out the episode. Again, Mike, I am going out here and just saying this felt like another 5 out of 5 knuckle shuffle from Cena.
Yeah.
The show continues to be
the show. If I were rating this episode on its own, it'd be 5 out of 5.
No, I'm saying like the show is on a. I still think like the second or third. I think it was the second episode to me felt like a little slow or whatever, but like this show is averaging out to be the 5-star episode, the 5-star project that we've yet to see, and I'm all for it. We have 2 more episodes. It looks like, excuse me, next week's episode, based on that Googling I did about how many more episodes we have. Next week's episode has the word dragon in the title, so sounds like that's going to be about Cena's dad. Yes, stop dragging my heart around. And then it's Cower Never is the final episode, so it looks like that's the order in which we might tackle the villains.
I was going to say, it seems very clear that we're going to have... I'm very excited to see how the villain groups, if they interact at all, and how they're actually going to be defeated, but that does make sense. White Dragon kind of seems like the sub-boss, and the butterflies seem like the big bad that actually can take over the world and kill everybody. So very excited to see how those 2 villain groups play into everything.
and Peacemaker will probably have a personal realization or two or something from fighting his dad that will help him grow or make him even less emotionally capable for the final boss, making it more dramatic and whatnot. But yeah, no, I'm
Can I add
excited.
one small thing I want to
Yeah.
throw out? There actually is a post credits to this episode. If it's very minor, but it's just a quick gag reel of the actor playing Locke just struggling to keep it together during the wood scene. Because he's trying to feign being upset that the cops are dead, and he just cannot keep a straight face, and it's very fun. So stick around for that if you haven't seen
Oh
it
yeah.
yet.
Peacemaker always does those great post credit scenes. And yeah. Mike, is there anything people should be on the lookout for you in the next week? I believe I saw some people tweeting about a different kind of ghost tour, and they said it was just for adults. Is your ghost tour not for just for adults?
No, my Ghost Tour is all ages. If you guys haven't checked out yet, I do have a music project called Ghost Tour. You probably see if you're watching the video, you could see the ads. But yeah, you can look us up on Spotify. Ghost Tour rocks on all the socials. But yeah, definitely check out our music if you haven't yet. I do have a couple gigs coming up, possibly in the next few weeks, so I'll be posting those on Twitter and Instagram. So definitely follow me there. But that's really it. Not a ton new to report, but that stuff is there, and would love for you to check it out.
And we'll be back talking about those. We'll remind you next week, of course, in next week's episode. And with that, probably one of our shorter episodes, but hey, that's the perk of reviewing a weekly episodic television show. Yet again, you can stream him, and this time you really should. This is Cinephiles, and we're out.